Okay, we're back. Temesia, I am just loving this. We're going through OCDI. So
Yes.
tell us, what exactly are we talking about here under C?
Life with Liliana and friends.
Okay, so I'm going to read something out, and I
Yes.
just want you to take this time to really take it in and process it. Because
Okay.
concentration is very abstract. It's not tangible for you and I to see in a child, but it's something that
Okay.
you will observe and notice your child develop on their own. And it's not
Right.
something that is pushed towards like a sense of order, where their actions are a byproduct of how you've set the
Yes.
environment. So
Yes.
concentration, it really comes in very naturally. And
Right.
once you disturb it for your child, it's no longer concentration. And
Okay.
so everyone that's watching and listening, Liliana and I just had to soak it into before we um, gave it um, uh, execute it for everybody to hear. So here it goes. So we cannot take the child's attention and
Yes.
carry it where we will, but we
Okay.
should observe where the child's attention tends to go. For that
Okay.
tendency reveals the path existing within the child or the developmental need that the child possesses by nature. And this, in fact, is repeated, very similar to that sense of order, that sequence,
Right.
not only
Okay.
in the child, but we believe throughout the whole life of the individual. We can only be guided by facts. In the case of the small child, we find that no child can concentrate on one object for a long time unless
Right.
the object itself spontaneously attracts the child's attention. So when
Right.
I was little, my mother would always collect pebbles. And what she would do is she would let me build with them.
Right.
And she had this not set up in a place where you would call it the toy room. I know
Right.
some of us probably had that area where, like, okay, the toys stay on that mat. Don't bring
Yes.
the toys this side. But she would have these pebbles out and about, just
Right.
randomly in by the laundry room or outside by the garden, and they would catch my attention. And because I wanted that sense of order and that initiative came from within me, I
Yes.
would always try to stack those rocks on my own.
Right.
And so there was never a time where you disrupt that concentration. So I want you to take some time to really think about sometimes when you're probably out sitting on the lawn or you're all around the TV and your child just slowly drifts away and they're slowly taken spontaneously by the light outside, or they're
Yes.
observing the way the wind blows, or it could be you in the car going on a ride and they're constantly tapping or doing a beat. And right away you go, oh, can you just stop that? That is so annoying. I'm trying to have a conversation. Things
Right.
come out of the blue. Or when the child is just engrossed by something in a book they're reading.
Yes.
And
Can I
you're like,
ask you,
okay,
sorry,
yes,
can I interrupt you? Because I'm
yes,
just
go
trying to
ahead.
think of how I can see this in my son's life.
Yes, yes.
And there's something like he has this fascination with sticks,
Oh,
like
wow.
swords. Like he
Yes,
always finds like PVC pipe or stick, and
yes,
he's going around, and I get mad because I'm
right,
worried that it's going to go into the couch, and it's going to rip. But
right.
sometimes when I'm working, I'm sitting at my desk and I can hear like whoosh, 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 like that, and then I look up and he's just full on,
Full
like,
on,
and
going
like
at it.
like he's
Yeah.
in his head. It's like there's
And
probably
in
an
his own
army around him.
imagination, right,
Yes,
Liliana?
yes. And
Yeah,
so then I'm thinking, and then sometimes I say to him, can you just stop? Like, what are
yeah,
you doing? I've done
right.
that a number of times. I mean, he doesn't care. Like,
Yeah,
it's not like I discipline him and I say, throw it away. But he
yes.
just laughs, and then sometimes I'm a bit like I start observing, man, this fellow's brain. But is that what you're talking about? Is that what
That
you're
is
talking about?
exactly what I'm talking
Getting
about.
lost in what they're
Getting
doing.
lost in that right there is that
Right.
natural concentration coming out. So I'm sorry, I had a really tough time trying to break down concentration
Yes.
because, we're in this COVID period where all, you know, given this isolation time, everyone is just stuck in their homes. And
Yes.
I know your children are going wild, and you're just like, what is going on?
Yes.
One is
Yes.
climbing the tree outside, one is climbing the railings. There's another one just making noise out of
Right.
their mouth. Outside, children just ah la 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 la, and you're just like, what is going on?
Yes.
That moment right there, that is that concentration
I
that's
see.
coming. It's a natural tendency. It's something that they're constantly wanting to improve. And that's
Right.
that's with
Right.
adults, and that's something that slowly dies with adults. There comes a
Yes.
time where your parents are just like, okay, enough with that. It's time to get
Yes.
serious. You're going to have to
Yes.
pay bills soon, and right
Right.
away, and that breaks that whole.
And so we
um,
kill it,
we kill
right?
it. We kill it,
Yes.
Liliana. And then
Yes.
by the time you're a parent, that childlike manner, you lose it. And when
Yes.
you see your child doing it, that the same way your parents responded to you is how
Yes.
you're responding to your
I
child.
see. I see. Yes.
Yes.
So why
So
is that important though? Why is it important that they have concentration?
that
Why
is so important when you're building your child for the world, because when they're
okay.
growing up, there's going to be decisions that are being made. That creativity and innovation really comes from
Ah,
that concentration. So depending on the path your child decides to go, whether it's going to be a scientist, a doctor, um, any route of work that your child
ah,
does take, that concentration plays a vital role in their life, in any general matter, whether they're making a decision on what to have for breakfast, whether
yes.
they're whether they're going to say yes to a job. That
Yeah.
natural concentration plays a vital role, because every time they make a decision, then they're making a decision based on based on what they're experiencing right at that moment,
I
right at
see.
that moment. So they're taking notice of everything that's playing around
Yes.
their environment. They're okay. So I'm not going to make that decision because my cousin, if they're playing games outside, my
Right.
cousin just gave me a smirk. And the last time
Yes.
they gave me a smirk, it was because they were actually tricking me. And so your child is slowly concentrating on those little behaviors that will slowly play a vital role in making bigger decisions. And
Okay.
so we're talking about, that's how deep that concentration topic
Yes.
goes. It plays a vital role because they're slowly noticing things. I mean, for you and I, we know, right, Liliana? We know,
Yes.
okay, do not fill the kettle all that way up, because in two
Yes.
minutes that it's going to start boiling and water's going to
Yes.
come out. It's going to go into the kettle. Water and electricity do not go together. It's going to
Right.
explode. I'm going to have to pay for this. And
Yes.
just look at that sequence. You already know
Right.
the ripple of
Right.
effect of that decision. For your
Yes.
child growing up, they will never know if you're constantly making decisions for them and telling
Yes.
them what to concentrate on, rather than
Yes.
giving them that space. Now, I'm not
Right.
telling you, I'm not saying like let your child be free and let
Yes.
them explore. No, give them that specific time,
Yes.
whether
Yes.
it's in the morning, like we were talking about that garbage collection. During
Yes.
that moment, when they're picking up from the bathroom, they're going to the kitchen. Along the
Yes.
way, your child is going to realize, you know what? If I actually do this the night before when
Yes.
everybody's about to go to sleep, I can actually kill 30 minutes quickly and get the
Right.
rubbish outside. And then I'll have time to enjoy the outside that mom said that I can explore.
Yes.
And then by 9 o'clock, I have to be back inside, and then I can start doing my online work, or I have to start doing my worksheets. So right away,
Right.
your child is slowly strategizing, slowly being consistent, and slowly starting to realize, if I start to plan out my chores, I'll get time to
Yes.
do this. So Liliana and I had a personal
Right.
conversation where we're talking about rewards, where she
Yes.
started saying, okay, listen, if you do this, I'm gonna, give $1. That
Yes.
dollar doesn't become mommy's money. And
Yes.
like, oh, I'm gonna go to the shop, I'm gonna buy a magnum, buy this, buy this. But right away, the child realized, that's my money. So if I spend
Yes.
that money now, I'll have no spending this weekend. And mom said we're going to the supermarket.
Right.
What do I do? Okay, let me think. I really want that. Should I start saving? Should I just spend it? Your child slowly
Right.
is making that concentrating decisions in
Right.
every area of their life.
Okay. So you know what? I think I get it. I
Yeah.
think like the penny has dropped, because this is like, it's one word, but we really need to just take our time in processing it.
Yes.
And I like to link it to, everyday things. So,
Mm.
when you said, well, first of all, I feel like the word you brought up earlier, freedom,
Yes,
discipline, comes into there, right? We
it
need to
does.
give our children
It
the
does.
freedom to concentrate, to
Yes,
get, and sometimes they do get a little bit lost in where they are. And
they
I think,
do. They do.
yeah, but sometimes, as adults, we could do with a little bit of time to daydream. We
Yes.
forget that our daydreams are important. I always believe that God tells us what He's planted in our hearts through our daydreams, just
I
to
love
sit
that.
and dream. And
Yes.
so when you're saying, I can actually see, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I'm thinking, because you said when we leave them in that space, when they are allowed to explore that, enjoy it, it
Yes.
leads to creativity, which you
It does.
mentioned. And so in my son's example, he's getting all creative, and then
Yes.
something comes on his head, and then he wraps something around his sword, because it's like,
Yes.
okay, this is better for grip. And then he also spoke about the rubbish. But then
Yes.
when we get older, get
Yes.
older, like I'm in a role that where I have to do a lot of problem solving.
Right.
Something that I've now started to do recently is give myself space to think. Give
Wow.
myself, like, I actually have to schedule it, because as adults, there's always something. I mean, you and I were just
Yes.
talking about how sometimes our plates get so full,
So
we do
full.
not, and we have lost, we do not value that space
Exactly.
to concentrate, because when you sit in that space, that's where the creativity is. I mean, and you're a
It's
creative person,
right.
so I'm sure you'd go to places where you just sit, like put the phone
Sit.
down,
Yes.
sit, and maybe you'll worship, or maybe you'll just sit and just look. So I can see how
Exactly.
that actually, if we nurture it
Yes.
when they're younger, and like then you be okay. Be
Yes.
okay when you're in that space. It's okay. It actually supports a healthy mindset, I think, when they become adults. Is that
Yes.
right?
And
So do I get
Liliana,
it?
yes, exactly. And the
Yes, okay.
child is in charge of his mind. You know,
Yeah,
while you're talking, you gave
right.
me so examples, and you're like, I, when we hire people now, and you're like, man, weren't they taught to do this when they were little? This is common sense. But the child was never given that chance. And so being in charge of their own mind is so difficult, because the parents constantly micromanage that concentration space for the child.
Mm.
And so it builds, and it builds
Yeah,
on. And so I'm not I we I'm just realizing how negative it can be, but it's a positive thing, Liliana. It's a
yeah.
beautiful thing when you involve it in the home.
Yes, it
It's
is.
it's so beautiful to sit and observe. Tomorrow, if you get up and you want to tackle this concentration at home, I look forward to, you sending your child out to just explore, even to tell them, okay, can you go pick flowers for the dining room table? Like, we need some flowers to go here. Let them go, and, give them a real knife. If
Yes,
you're worried, that's good. You teach them how to use the knife. So when they
yes,
go out, they know, because that's an investment. That's an investment. And
yes.
you're slowly teaching them to how to use a knife. And this goes all the way to how you send them to the shop, right, Liliana? When you go to the
Right.
supermarket, you're like, okay, I'm giving you $5, go buy a long loaf and one real life. And
Yes.
and you tend to come in and you're like, oh no, no, don't send them to the shop because of this and this and this. People talk to little
Yes.
children. You don't want to send them there. Your child will never
Right.
learn. Your child will
Right.
never learn if you don't give that space
Right.
for
And
your
like you
child to
said,
learn.
when they start working, that's what you start seeing, because we see it a lot in the
Yes,
workplace. Like, do
yes,
they really need to be told? Like, why don't they just
yes.
do that? But that's it. Right. They really don't know. They
Right.
weren't given space to be able to do that. Everything they
Yes.
did was because they were told to do it.
Exactly. And that's our
Okay.
culture, I guess. And that's something we need to
Yes.
transform here in the Pacific.
Yes, and we can. I
We
think it's
can.
important that we're equipped with
Yes.
this information. Like when we're
Yes.
empowered with it, now us as parents, we
Yes.
know what to do. And I think
Can
just
you
to add
imagine, Liliana, after
one,
this conversation, the amount of parents that are going to just have concentration time for their children to just go and
yes,
explore and make
yes,
and make that make them be in charge of their own mind and the
wonderful.
decisions they make. It's going to
Yes,
be amazing. We'll be
yes.
driving around our neighborhoods seeing children explore.
Wow. And it actually takes a weight off our shoulders as well, as
It does.
parents. Like
It
the
does.
micromanaging is exhausting. It's exhausting.
I don't know how people do it. It's so
Yeah.
hard. It's a difficult thing to do, micromanage.
It is. So you know what? We need to take a break.
Yes.
We really do. Like we just need to take a bite of these things and let's just do a few minutes break if you're okay with that. And we will come back and we're gonna talk about discipline.
Ooh.
And not, I hope this is not the South African kind of discipline, right?
No,
Because
no, not the Sasa ones.
Okay, lovely. Okay, thanks so much, Temesia, for
Naka.
coming to me.